Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 5, activating starseeds, walk-ins, and the new human of the golden age. I'm your host, Waxela Sananda, and today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Daniel Scranton. Welcome, Daniel.
Hi, good to be
Hi.
here.
Glad to have you.
Thanks.
And I'm looking forward to getting into our conversation. But first, I'd love to invite everyone to join us in a short alignment process so we can really get present and focused and ready to receive whatever information comes through today. So I just invite everyone to begin by closing your eyes and deepening the breath into the belly. And as you're breathing, make contact with your heart center and the light within your heart. Breathing into that heart light, feel it growing out around your chest. And as that heart light is growing, feel that line of energy lighting up every energy center in your body, and then extending up far above your head into central sun, making contact with the heart light of central sun. And then bring that energy down into the crown of your head, down through every energy center, and then continue down into the core heart of Mother Earth, activating the light in Mother Earth and bringing that energy up into the base of your spine, into every energy center of your body, and then joining those three lights together from above, below, and within, creating a holy trinity of light, protecting and surrounding you. And in this light, you are expanded in focus, in presence, and open to receive whatever is for our highest good today in this conversation. So take a deep breath, and as you're ready, come on back. And I'm going to share a little bit about Daniel and his journey and what he's up to in the world. Daniel Scranton is a verbal channel, spiritual teacher, and sound healer. He has been channeling the 12th dimensional non-physical collective known as the Creators since the fall of 2010. Other beings he channels include Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Quan Yin, Yeshua, the Hathors, the Pleiadian High Council of Seven, and the Arcturian Council. He also channels light languages and healing overtones. Wow, welcome, Daniel. It's such a pleasure to have you here. And I'd love to jump in with your origin story and how you got started doing this work.
Well, it's funny because I never thought that I would be doing this work. I always thought that I was the guy with all the questions because I was going to all these Abraham Hicks workshops and asking questions all the time and always working on my questions. But I didn't think that this was back then, back in 2010, it seemed like there weren't as many people channeling. So it wasn't something where you bumped into people and they're, oh, I channel. As now it seems to be the case where a lot of people are channeling. Um, so I didn't expect it of myself, but then I started to notice things that were happening. Like I'd be doing Reiki on someone, my hands would start moving by themselves. They start going like this, and my head like this, and I could feel energy coming in through my crown, and it was like I was 37 years old, and this was like the first time anything like this had ever happened to me. You know, I'd been awake for many, many years, and I had meditated every day. So nothing had ever happened like this. And then I had this experience in the middle of the night where I looked at a friend of mine in the dream who I knew from the Abraham stuff, and he was really into ETs, and I wasn't. So I look at him in the dream and I say, I understand now about the other beings. And that was it. That was the totality of the dream. I woke up. I start receiving huge surge of energy through the crown of my head, and it's moving all the way through my body like a scan from head to toe. And it feels so good that my body's almost like lifted off the bed. I've got my back arched and I'm just saying, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And then I said, "More please." More please. And then I said one more time. I kept speaking to it. And then I had a thought, my thought being, what does this have to do with that dream? And then I thought, what does this have to do with aliens? And as soon as I thought the word aliens, I got a huge surge of energy through my body. So then I just kept thinking the word over and over again because the energy felt so good. I just wanted it to keep coming. And then I started to talk to them in my head. My eyes are closed the whole time, and I'm saying, "What are you here for? Like, are you here to heal me?" And then the answer was no. Like, I knew if it was no because I would get no energy surge, and I knew if it was yes because they would give me a huge one. And then I said, "Are you here to play with me?" And I got a huge one. And then at some point in all of this, and I have no idea what the time frame for it was, but I thought maybe I can see you in the room. So I opened my eyes, and then the energy starts flooding in again, like it was at the very beginning. And I didn't see anything in the room, but it was like it was just this amazing experience, and it just stopped at some point, and I kind of dedicated myself from that moment on to include this type of attempt at contact with my meditation. So my meditations were already extremely consistent and long, like an hour a day. And I was now doing it for longer because I could easily conjure up some energy and feeling, and I can give myself full body goosebumps at any time. And that was what I sort of figured out how to do through this. But I didn't know what else was, happening. This is in March of 2010. So it all starts in January, and this is March. And then I start going like really deep into meditations and start having these dry heaves. So it feels like something wants to come up and out of me. And again, like the other thing, I don't think I mentioned this yet, is when I was doing Reiki, I started to make this like whispery sound with my lips. It was like, and then that was the first moment I thought, oh, maybe I'm going to channel. And then with the dry heaving, it was like, oh, something wants to come up and out of me. And then I go to an Abraham workshop in October. And I'm at the workshop and I'm dry heaving because I'm at this point in my journey, I'm more interested in tuning into energy than I am to asking questions. So I stopped raising my hand all the time at the workshops. And then I had the dry heaves and I told my friends about it after, and they said, you need to talk to Abraham about this. And so the next day I'm sitting there, there's a 2-day workshop. I'm sitting there, my arm just raises by itself. And I didn't raise my hand, I don't think, for half the workshop. And it was the very first time of the second workshop where somebody was in the hot seat already. And my arm raises by itself. I get called on. My body gets filled with energy. And I walk up there and I'm like, what's going on? What is happening to me? Because I actually had already asked them about the time in March with the download of energy. I asked them about that months prior, and I forgot what they said, but I saw Esther at one point. It was on a cruise, and I saw her, and she goes, she said, big things are happening for you. And that was it, and that was the extent of the conversation. But then in October, they said, you are going to channel, and that's what's happening. And they said, you have to stick with it, even though there's all this resistance in your body, and that's what you're feeling with these dry heaves. It's resistance. So I said, okay, I guess I'm going to channel. So I just kind of like sat to do it. And at first it looked a lot like this. And that would go on for like 45 minutes. and and I had a girlfriend at the time, and she helped me. She'd be on Skype with me, and she'd sit there and she'd wait for me to channel, and it would just be a lot of energy and a lot of movement of the upper half of my body, no sounds. And I started making these like phonetic sounds. I'd go puh 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 ch 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 ch. And then finally I spoke for the creators for the first time. They said, "We are here for you." And then every time I channeled for like a year and a half was always for another person. They had to be there with their questions, because I don't know if I didn't feel confident enough to just bring through a message. But eventually I started to, in my workshops I started doing it right away, because I thought, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it. I can't just be wishy-washy about it. It's like this is what I want to do. I'm going to do it. So I put on workshops and people would come, and eventually I started to channel more of like general messages. And then it wasn't until 2012 that I started doing a daily channeled message. And so for about 10 years I've been channeling one of the groups that I channel, or beings, for a daily message for everybody.
Hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so interesting. I was getting visions of face yoga. Like,
I've never heard of that.
yeah, there's face yoga. It's supposed to be better than a facelift.
Well, I'll tell
Um,
you what, somebody pointed out, who's known me for many years. She said, your face has changed because I tone every time I bring them in, whether it's the creators, the Arcturians, whoever. And that toning is like, a minute and a half, 2 minutes of really, it's a lot of, they're doing things, to make the tones happen. It's like, it's not me doing it. And 5, 6 clients a day, that adds up to a lot of exercising of my of my muscles here. So like sometimes I look at myself on a video and I'm like, gosh, these are like biceps right here, these two muscles.
it is face yoga.
It really, yeah. I mean, if you want to, toning is so good for you. I mean, it's like breathing, like anytime you're doing breath work, you are doing so many good things for yourself. Anytime you're meditating and anytime you're toning, those are huge in terms of like, toning's going to open up your throat chakra. It's going to release blockages. It's going to raise your vibration. It's self-expression. It can lead to channeling. I mean, I was toning. So another part of the story, there's a lot of parts to the story, but the creators would say, sing and ring a lot to me. Like they'd say it not to me, but through me, over and over and over. So I'd go into the channeling and it would be sing and ring and sing and ring and sing. And then I said, oh, maybe I should go take voice lessons. And then I did. And then that led to my teacher, whose studio was called Singing for Your Soul. It was funny how like everything lined up. And she knew all about channeling and Abraham. And she got me toning. It just so happened, another synchronicity was like, I'm learning at the same time about the power of tone and sound through another channeler who you might know, named Wendy Kennedy. She channeled these wonderful workshops about tones and how, sound was a part of, the creation of the universe and the building of the pyramids and all this stuff. So I was very interested, and I said to my teacher, I said, I want to learn how to do overtones. And she said, I don't know how to teach you that. So the next thing I know, the creators, instead of coming through with sing and ring or a light language, which they started doing after that, it was these crazy overtones that just like they knew how to move my tongue and my mouth and my lips and everything to make the sounds that
Mhm.
I didn't know how to do. So yeah, so ever since then, before each transmission that I bring in, whether it's for everybody or for a client, there's toning that comes in.
Wow, fascinating. So a couple things there. I'd love to know, um, do you feel like it's a pre-incarnational agreement when someone becomes a channel? And like for you, it doesn't seem like you went looking to be a channel. It just sort of happened to you.
Yeah.
Was that something that was a pre-incarnational agreement that you were destined to start at some point?
No, I don't think so. I think that the possibility was there. But I could have made other choices in my life, you know. I could have chosen caffeine over meditation. So my reason for meditating for as long as I did, for every day, was I ran out of energy at some point, and I knew that caffeine was not the answer for me. I knew that meditation was. I thought that I invented meditation because because I wasn't even awake yet. I didn't know what meditation was, but I knew that if I laid down and I counted my breathing for 200 breaths, I felt better. So it wasn't till later on that I realized, oh, I was meditating all that time.
Wow.
So I mean, I there were times when I could have chosen. I could have said, you know, my family's going to think this is too weird. You know, but for whatever reason, now there are certain things in my journey where I can say, well, three people told you to read Conversations with God. So obviously there were times when I was definitely being nudged and guided in these directions. And people kept telling me when I was into Seth, they're like, you got to check out Abraham. You got to check out Abraham. And then I finally did. Um, so I do think that we have choices, but I do think that these, you know, these connections that I have, they pre-existed, but that I still had a choice to say, no, I'm going to keep drinking alcohol as a way of dealing with my anxiety. You know, in my life, that was my teens and early 20s. Is like, I don't feel confident. I don't necessarily think that I'm good enough. And so I'll drink and I'll give me like liquid confidence and I can go out and socialize and try to, you know, meet women.
Mhm.
But at some point, you know, I everything seems to me like certain things were preordained, like we're going to put this in front of you. And then, you know, and then it's up to you what you do with it. Because you know, there are people like there's this guy, I can't even think of his name. He channels or channeled, I don't know if he still does, this being that he sounds just like Bashar. He says the same things as Bashar says, but the guy decided channeling wasn't for him and he chose a different career. And but his channeling was just amazing, and some people know about him. The being is called Ilan that he channels.
Mhm.
So people can always choose, you know, to sort of zig or zag, but I think that channeling is something that, if you really think about it, there is only channeling. There is only you tuning in based on your vibration. So your vibration is like your setting. To you can tune into thought forms. You can tune into you know, fragments of something. You can tune into higher consciousness. You can tune into websites. You know, there's all these things that you can channel. You can channel your family lines beliefs about whatever. Um, but we are these tuning forks, and we're like tuning in all the time to something. It's just a question of, are you doing it consciously? And if you're doing it consciously, if you're choosing to keep going back to a website where every time you read about the doom and gloom report, you feel worse, then you're choosing that. It's at some point, that's what people, I think, need to realize is that you have a choice. Your your feelings have to matter to you enough for you to make a choice towards feeling better. And once they do, your vibration will keep going up and up and up. And eventually, you will connect with a higher consciousness of some kind. And some people don't know it. I mean, Eckhart Tolle doesn't call what he does channeling, but he's connected. There's something deep, and Muji and great teachers that are out there, that Dalai Lama, someone will ask him a question and he'll say, I don't know. And then he'll sit there and wait and then he'll start speaking. You know what I mean? So actors, musicians, athletes, channels, they're all channels. If they're good. I mean, you can go through the motions and you can be in your head and you can not open up and not, when everybody says like there's a zone, right? Oh, I got in the zone. That zone is you having raised your vibration enough to where now you're connected to something that's of a much higher consciousness than what's down here. We have these thought forms floating around all around us all the time. And I don't know if you've ever noticed this in your life, but you could go to a place and be like, oh, I always seem to think about this when I'm in this place, because you just bumped into some thought forms and now you're channeling them, right? So it's inevitable that everybody raises their vibration, right? We can't help but ascend. It's an upward spiral we're on now. So we're all going to be channeling at some point.
Yeah, interesting. You talked about earlier about light language,
Yeah.
and I'd love for you to share kind of what is light language to you? What's the purpose of it? Where does it come from? Why are so many people speaking light language now? What does it
Right.
mean? Yeah.
Right. That's a big, some of those questions are big sticking points for people. They'll say, I don't know where it's coming from and I don't know what it means. And my answer is, who cares? I mean, really, it doesn't matter. um, I started speaking it without knowing what it was. So I got my first download of light language while I was receiving a massage, and I had already been a channeler at that time for 6 months. So I knew about channeling, but I didn't know about light language. And it was a very simple language. It didn't have a lot of words in it. It was like a lot of N's and K's in the words and vowels. And I didn't do anything with it. I didn't know what to do with it. I learned more about it again through a great channeler named Wendy Kennedy, who's a wonderful light language speaker, and she draws a lot of codes too that go with it. And so I learned about it from her. She was the channeler that I spoke to who told me what it was that I was doing. And from that point, well, I believe that it is light. So there's no coincidence there that it's called light language. It's light. Now, anything that you channel, whether you're channeling the Arcturians, the Pleiadians, Archangel Michael, Yeshua, whoever, you're taking energy. It's coming in through your head or wherever. It could come in through your heart, but it's coming in somewhere. And then it moves into your body, where, like me at first, I was just going because it was in my body, but untranslatable for me. At a certain point, something clicks within the person where they then know intuitively or subconsciously, or however you want to say it, they know how to translate this into words or light language or tones. It's a remembering of that talent, of that, whatever that is. So that light is turned into language by the person. So each person's light language is unique. You don't find two people speaking the exact same language or having conversations with each other with light language that they understand, because it's not meant to be understood by the mind. The mind is a limiting mechanism that keeps us in our bodies, but it keeps us from realizing who we really are at all times and then just ascending, right? It's a necessary thing for us to have experience here. But the light language is like an activation. It's like codes that are coming at your face and just, completely bypassing your level of understanding, but having a profound effect on you. And that's what it's meant to do. So if people speak light language, they should just go with it and not try to figure it out. And if you want to say like, okay, I want to speak a light language from Sirius, then what you're ultimately doing is pulling that light through the star system of Sirius and then down to you. So it's hitting that prism and that light's coming, and then it's got Sirius energy in it, but it doesn't mean you're speaking in Syrian language. Because first of all, if you think about most ETs, they're beyond verbal communication. They're all telepathic, and they're not. And by the way, telepathy is not me sending you a thought like "go feed the dog," and then you suddenly hear "go feed the dog." I don't. That it's telepathy is more subtle than that too, but that's how we think of it. So they're not sending their own language to one another without speaking. They're on the same wavelength. They know the same things they need to know at the same moment, because synchronicity and vibration bring them together. So that's why it's I don't think meant to be interpreted, and I don't think it's spoken language. I think it's every person's interpretation of the light that they're channeling.
Interesting. Thank you for breaking that down and sharing in that way. That's fascinating.
But that being said, you could also get inspired ideas or inspired whatever from a light language, and then you could say, well, that's what the light language was saying, but really it's you that's been activated to access that through the light language, which is always meant to activate, heal, or do something else. It's powerful. You use it to create your reality if you set that intention for the light language and then speak it.
Yes. Cool. Okay. So interesting. Yeah. And more light language speakers are coming on the show. I used to have to really, really search to find someone. And now it's like, oh, lots of people are doing it. It's cool. Like people are just activating, I guess. But speaking of activating, I would love to invite you if you'd like to channel for us. Are you ready for that?
Yeah. I'm gonna channel the Arcturians.
Okay.
And like I said, there'll be tones at the beginning, and there's all the movements and everything. It's all channeled. So they'll come in and introduce themselves, and I'm sure they'll have a few things to say, and then you can talk to them.
Wonderful.
Okay. Greetings. Well, the Arcturian Council. Well, please to conduct with all of you. Yes. 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 We are very pleased to be here and to be addressing this very awake audience. We know each and every one of you who will receive this transmission in advance. And we include more than just the messages that we bring through this channel here as we address you. We include an energetic transmission that can be received at any time. And as we said, we know who will be receiving this, and therefore we know what energies to infuse into what is coming through the channeler at this time. We want you to know that everything in your world as it is today is meant to be accepted as it is. And you are being asked to show up as the beings of light and love that you are, to shift the consciousness of humanity. And that shift is not a changing of people's minds. It is a changing of people's vibrations. And that is easy to do with every single person that you meet as you focus on shining the light from your heart to all individuals that you see and that you come into contact with. Everyone out there is your teacher, and everyone out there is also an aspect of you that you are integrating. Now, integration happens in many ways. It happens through experience, and it happens through conversations. But it also happens through forgiveness and through releasing judgment, through letting go of the thoughts and beliefs that no longer serve you about a person or an institution, a government, whatever it is that you have your negative beliefs around and that you are currently pushing against. They're all meant to be forgiven so that they can ultimately be loved unconditionally by you. Because the change that you want to see out there always has to come from within. It always has to be that you are using the world as it is today as a catalyst to get you to be more of who you really are as a being of unconditional love. And as you radiate that love, you not only serve your purpose of being who you really are, but you see the world outside of you transforming with you. And so that's where you are on your journey right now. You are becoming your higher selves by making peace with everything and everyone as it is and as they are. It is the way for you to put all the pieces of yourself together so you operate as a unified, harmonious soul rather than a fragmented one that is fighting against yourself with your own beliefs and your own judgments and your own fears, all of which you can change and release whenever you choose to, whenever you decide that the timing is right for you to do that work. But please realize that when you do that work, you help everyone in existence because you lay the groundwork, you set the blueprint and the template up for everyone else to do the same. And you have more experience. You have then something that you can teach others about. And the students will find you. The students who are most appropriate to find you will. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about how you're going to get out there with your truth. Just keep becoming who you are meant to become and let what you radiate bring people to you that will then benefit from the experiences you have had with your own spiritual evolution. Very good. We are ready for your questions if you have some for us.
Thank you so much to Daniel and the Ninth Dimensional Arcturian Council for that beautiful channeling. So we would have gone longer. I had some questions to ask, but something strange happened to my technology, as can happen sometimes when these higher dimensional frequencies come through. My sound went out. I didn't know that, and neither did Daniel. And so the Arcturian Council could not hear my questions. I was not muted, interestingly. These things happen sometimes. And so Daniel lost the connection, and then we couldn't communicate because there was no sound. And I also want to say, you know, as humans, we have this tendency to judge things that don't make sense or that we might not understand at first. And when I first saw Daniel's channeling, I was like, whoa, that's so animated and so, you know, theatrical is really what I thought. And so at first I was like, is this real? You know, which is natural. We question, right? Is this real? For me, I had to watch a few of his channelings, and then getting to know him through our introductory call and then this interview as well. I really get that Daniel's 100% authentic. He's got a huge heart. He's in this work to serve us, to serve humanity, to serve the Earth's ascension. And I also feel like the information that he brings through is very high quality and pure. So I appreciate, everything that he shared, and I invite you to listen to that again, the Arcturian Council, although it was short, it was very powerful. And I thank you for watching. I appreciate you tuning in. Daniel also has a free gift, which we didn't get to let him talk about. It's a grounding meditation from Archangel Michael. So I will have the link to that gift in the show notes. Be sure and download that. And I thank you for watching. Have a beautiful day or evening. Namaste.